Assalamu alaikum wa barakatuh. Inshallah, if you could move forward. Some people are praying the sunnah, so just be mindful. But inshallah, if you can move forward, inshallah ta'ala, we'll be starting our talk on Islamic finance. And I'd like to introduce our guest, inshallah. We're honored to have with us Brother Atif Khan. We've been announcing for the past couple of days. Brother Atif is visiting us from Jordan, actually. He's the managing director of Ethica Institute of Islamic Finance, growing the institute from inception to over 15,000 professionals in 65 countries. Ethica is ranked at #1 on Google for Best Islamic Finance Certification regularly, alhamdulillah. Ethica is officially recognized by the leading standard-setting body in Islamic finance. Brother Atif has given talks on Islamic finance across the globe, from North America to Australia, and brings over 30 years of finance experience to Ethica, including studying the Sharia sciences one-on-one with some of the world's leading experts on finance, Islamic finance. Prior to learning about the harms of conventional banking, his earlier finance experience included investment banking at Morgan Stanley in New York and in London, executing over $3 billion in transactions in mergers and acquisitions, corporate finance and capital markets. He went on to become CFO of iProx Limited in London and Director of Islamic Finance at Bank T&D in Dubai. Brother Atif was educated at University of Massachusetts and Amherst and Harvard, inshallah. Brother Atif Khan, inshallah, please join us. Jazakumullah khair.
Sit or stand? Would you like to sit or stand?
Stand.
Stand?
Walk.
Okay.
Okay.
Just clip this onto your side.
Where do I put this?
Your pocket.
This one. This one. Assalamu alaikum. My name is Atif. I'm going to be introducing you to Islamic finance. Any finance professionals here? Okay, good. So I'll keep it very basic for a lay audience. The focus will be on your questions. I won't talk for more than about 20 minutes. And I will try to help you leave this masjid today with an appreciation for the non-Islamic arguments for Islamic finance. So, you've heard that riba is haram, but you haven't actually maybe fully grasped why it's so bad. So we're going to get into that mostly. First, I will need a couple of volunteers. So we'll need 2 good guys and 2 bad guys. So come up. Can be a kid, can be an adult. Don't be shy. Okay. So, good guys or bad guys?
Good guys.
You guys. Okay. Keep the sunglasses on. Okay. So this is, I've given lots of these talks. Am I speaking too loudly or too softly? Too softly? Okay, so is that better? Okay, I'll try to speak up. I'm a bit hoarse from the travel. This is, I just got into Toronto. This is the first talk in the first city in 40 cities across the US and Canada. So we're literally going to go from here to Boston, New York, Chicago, San Francisco, LA, Houston, and back, and then stop in about 40 places along the way. So, we've done this before, but inshallah, you'll enjoy this little experiment. So here are the good guys on the right, bad guys on the left. So here's $1 million. You guys got $1 million. And here's $1 million for you. You can basically only do Islamic finance. So what does that mean? That means buying and selling assets and services. What are you going to do on the first day? And then here's $1 million. You can do whatever you want. Stay within the law. Use all the riba that you want. What are you going to do with $1 million for 1 week? Okay, so we'll start off with your first week. What are you going to do with $1 million? You're going to make as much money as possible, Islamically.
Buy a couple condos.
He's going to buy a couple of condos. Good decision. Real estate. So that'll take you about a week to buy if you've already identified it. And you're very quick with the lawyers, municipality inspections, etc. It'll take about a week, right? Okay. Hour one.
We're going to do the same thing with finance as much as we can.
No, there's faster ways to make money than that.
It's $1 million. Just the first thing came to our mind is just buy a house.
Too slow. I can give you some tips. You're going to loan the money to the poorest person you can find, to the most desperate person you can find. I'm sure on the street you could probably do 30% a month. I mean, the banks are doing 15% with ordinary people. So with desperate poor people in Canada, you could do 30% a month. Take a trip to India, you're at 70% a month among the farmers. That's what you do in the first hour. Using AI, blockchain, other stuff, you can start ramping that up. You can turn that $1 million into $100 million just with leverage. Okay, these guys are still buying their 2 condos. Okay, everything is great. They're making lots of money. Now what happens? The economy crashes. What do they have? 2 condos. What do they have? They have lots of leverage. There's going to be lots of defaults. There's going to be a domino effect of problems that's going to affect lots of people besides the 2 of them. And these people have an asset. So when times are good, they're destroying the economy through exploitation. When times are bad, they're actually destroying the economy through defaults and other ways. You can sit down now, thank you. So this is just a simple example of, I mean, I don't know how many of you, who was around for the global financial crisis in 2008? Okay. Who was around for the dot-com bust in 2001 or 2000? Who was here for the 87 crash in the stock market? So you all know, and then the 70s oil crisis, a lot of the things are precipitated by riba. So what's wrong with riba? Okay, well, let's just look at something you're all familiar with. Can you please tell me, why is alcohol haram? It's bad. Okay, sugar is bad. Can you tell me why alcohol is haram? Because Allah said so. So I'm a non-Muslim who wants to know why alcohol is bad. I heard that a cup of wine a day is good for my heart, even though it's not in the long run. But what is the non-Islamic reason for the problem with alcohol? Go ahead. Okay. Okay, great. But I'm going to stay at home, and I'm just going to drink by myself at home. What's the problem there? Go ahead. It can control you. So these are all things, these are decisions I'm making for myself in my own body. I'm not affecting anybody else. I'm sitting at home having alcohol. I'm not affecting anybody. Why is it still a problem? I'm still at home, the doors are locked, I'm just watching movies, and so what's still wrong with it? Yeah, go ahead. But I can commit suicide, I can do anything I want, I'm sitting at home. Why is it still wrong? Go ahead.
You lose control over yourself, so maybe you'll hurt yourself.
True, you can hurt yourself, but it's just me. So it's a free world. I'm independent. I'm not hurting anybody else. Go ahead. But the doors are locked. I'm in the house alone. Go ahead. Okay, we're getting better now. Destroying the community. So what is Islam interested in? Islam is interested in all humanity. Okay. The problem with alcohol is, and this is, if you remember nothing else, just remember this. Every individual harm has a generalizable harm. Okay, so if we have alcohol, we're harming ourselves, but if you generalize this to all of society, it precipitates a whole host of other harms. So, if I drink alone in the house, etc., it's because it's legal. I can buy it, but that's my decision to go home and lock the doors. But it's not going to be everybody's decision. Other people are going to drink it in the car. They're going to drink it in the party. They're going to drink it after they lose the football match, and they're drunk, and they come home and they abuse people. It has a generalizable harm that is far greater than the individual's freedom. So, than the benefit of the individual's freedom. Riba is no different. When you see those smiling, tellers at TD Bank, they're just doing their job, and you're just doing the ribawi loan, and everything's individualized. But this is just like alcohol. In fact, it's worse than alcohol. And Allah says it's worse than alcohol. After shirk, there's nothing worse than anything except riba. So, and by riba means many things. Riba, the Prophet said there's 70 kinds of riba. So that's an Arabic, acerbation for strengthening. So, like you say, I've told you a million times. So 70 kinds of riba, many kinds of riba, the least of which is as bad as a man marrying his own mother. Now, what we're referring to here is commercial interest that you find in the bank, the 3% APR, et cetera, et cetera. So we're not talking about a usury in the traditional sense of exorbitant interest, although riba and usury were synonymous until they were changed by the West. So we're talking about commercial interest. What is wrong with that 1% loan or 3% loan or 10% loan? It's like that one glass. You generalize that across all of society, and then you get lots and lots of problems. One problem I can give you right now. Nigeria borrowed $5 billion. They owe $45 billion, 15% interest rate. What's Nigeria doing? It's paying it off with oil. Oil to who? The rich north. Brazil, the Amazon is being torn down to turn the rainforest into lumber. To do what? Pay off loans. To whom? The rich north. So at the individual level, you take out a loan and you have to pay it back. What happens when you lose your job? They repossess your home, they repossess your car, they repossess different assets. This is a greater harm than the benefit of you being able to use that loan in other ways. So riba is extremely harmful to the individual, to the community, to the world, and to the earth. So there's countless examples. I'm sure you guys know about them. So what we're going to try to do is explain to you what the main difference is. I'm not going to use a whiteboard. There's only 4 things you have to know. And you already know these 4 things. There's 4 kinds of finance. 90% of finance is of these 4 kinds: debt, equity, trade, and leasing. Everybody pretty much has experienced some form of this. Debt is ribawi loans. You can give a debt in Islam, but as long as you don't charge riba, it's an act of worship. But what we're talking about here in the modern sense, debt is interest-based. Equity, comes in the form of stocks, comes in the form of musharaka, comes in the form of taking a stake in somebody's company. This is equity. Trade is buying and selling, something we all do every day, and leasing is renting out something. So all of these are halal except the interest-based debt. So Islamic finance isn't actually something new. It's something that most people are already doing in some fashion or another. It is not something that has come in and swept aside conventional banking. Most conventional leases are easy to convert into an Islamic lease. Most conventional buying and selling is something that's okay. And most conventional equity-based products barring things like pornography, gambling, investment, these things are okay. So you just have to remember this about Islamic finances. It's similar in many ways to equity, trade, and leasing, just you take out the debt. And just about everything debt can do, you can do with, as we saw it with our example of the two good guys, goods and services, buying and selling goods and services. So that's a basic introduction to the problems of riba, the advantages of Islamic finance, and the four kinds of finance that there are. That's about 10 minutes. I can go on into specific products. Can we have a rough show of hands as to what you want me, which direction you want me to talk about more? Yes?
Just right now about loans, about mostly Canada, but not afford it. Okay, and just maybe have a good idea or a good knowledge about stock or business, but we don't have enough time. And just right now, in general in Canada, if you like, let's say, for example, to start franchisee business.
To what?
Franchisee business.
Yes.
Okay, whatever the brand is, you ask a loan from the bank and so on and so on. Okay, so is it acceptable?
Okay.
Not acceptable.
Okay. I just saw a notepad here. Anybody who is interested in asking more questions of me online, I'm just going to write my email here because some people have more detailed questions. We can answer them. Just mention that you were at this talk. And then over here, below, if you want free stuff, we've got all kinds of free stuff. I will email it to you. Just write your email down. Please, legibly. It's not an autograph I'm asking for, just your email. Clear. Okay, so yeah, the question, yeah, go ahead.
One more question about the regular credit card. Just right now, it's been somehow, when I come here to Canada, they told me you should have a credit history. At the beginning, I refused to have a credit card. But after that, they told me you should have a credit history. This is why I have a credit card. And it was, let's say it was a certain amount, then by the time I increase it a little bit, and then increase it a little bit, I'm step by step right now.
Where are you from originally?
Originally, I'm from Egypt.
Okay, mashallah.
So right now, what we should do with something like that?
Okay, well, I will not give you the Canadian version because I'm not going to pretend to know what your local laws are. I am more familiar with the US laws, and I personally, I live in Jordan, so I'm more familiar with that. So what I will say is this, regarding your first question regarding loans, the banks here do not want to take ownership in an asset and service. What they will do is they'll give you a loan and they'll put some kind of a lien on the thing, and they'll have a mortgage, but they'll never actually put, they could repossess it, but they're not going to put their name as the owner of the house or even part owner of the house. This is a big problem for them. There are Islamic finance organizations here. I can't vouch for any of them because we haven't done a Sharia review, but there's Manzil, there's Guidance in the US, maybe they have operations in Canada as well. There's University Islamic Financial, UIF. So there are ways to finance it. What I recommend is that communities, like mashallah, you have a very big community. I've never been over here, but it's impressive to see all these Muslims. There must be people here who have liquid wealth, who are willing to put together a fund for investment purposes, and it's just literally a matter of them buying houses in partnership with the renter slash eventual owner. So it could be 90% investor, 80% investor, 10 to 20% tenant, future owner. And has anyone here, just raise your hand if you've heard of the diminishing musharaka, also known as diminishing wajada. So there's a couple of people who've heard of it. So in that, which is probably the most ideal form, because musharaka is something we try to promote, murabaha less so. But in musharaka, it's diminishing because the person who wants to buy the house, They put down a down payment, let's say 10, 20%, and then they purchase every month in the form of two payments. One is the rent for the portion that they don't own, and one is the purchase of the equity for the portion that they don't own. So this way, they slowly reduce their rental payments and slowly increase their equity and eventually become the owners. And the investors have made money off the rent. So this is completely recommended, and this is completely easy to do. It's just a question of piloting a project with individuals in the community who are willing to put up whatever houses go for nowadays, $1 million plus. So that's one way. In terms of going to the bank for a loan, no, that's not okay because it's going to be ribawi. They're never going to share with you an asset or a service. So that's completely out. There's no way out of that. Simply no. And one thing, I spoke to my Sharia board head, Mufti Ibrahim Isa, before I came. He's, mashallah, from Dar al-Uloom in Pakistan. And he said, do mention this, this unreliable opinion going around that, you know, because of the haja, the extreme need of Muslims establishing themselves, that riba is haram, 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 but guess what? You can take the first house you can buy with a ribawi loan, and that's completely rejected by all the traditional ulama. You guys look pretty traditional here, so I think you know, it's something not even worth entertaining. So this is a fatwa that you can reject outright. Haja means extreme need. It is not an extreme need to have ownership. That's the problem. It's not an extreme need to have ownership. It is a need to have Muslims establish themselves and to avoid riba, but it is not a need to be the owner of a property. So this is a faulty opinion. We should ignore it entirely. Yes, go ahead.
Can you explain how Sharia defines home finances use? They're still getting their funding. Like you explained, like you talked about people getting together and putting together a fund, but most of them they get their fund from a bank and it's somehow converted into home finances for home. So how does that?
Okay, so are you talking about a specific institution or are you talking about individuals? So I can't speak for any individual institution, but I can say that if you are not responsible for how they are funding themselves. You're only responsible for how you are being funded. So that's the extent of the thing. So if you're talking about Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac type stuff for things like guidance, the explanation is actually given on their website. And the issue is that the transaction between them and guidance is acceptable. It's been approved by Mufti Taqi Usmani and his son, Dr. Imran Usmani. So that's not an issue. The issue is when they lend you money on a ribawi loan, which actually happened. I'm not going to name the organization. A lot of you guys might know it already. In Toronto, one of these organizations went out of business because they were basically recycling loans. And in fact, I know of one that you guys, you know, I can't say, I don't want to say this year because a few years ago when we reviewed them, completely off, but maybe they've improved, I don't know. But if they're basically putting a note on top of a ribawi loan, it's to be ignored. But if they're getting funded by somebody, it's a degree of separation that the ulama permit. But again, I have to look at it on a case-by-case basis. Email me. My email is right there, Atif, A-T-I-F, not E-F, A-T-I-F, at Ethica.institute, E-T-H-I-C-A.institute, no .com. So I can answer your questions. Yeah, you've been putting your hand up for a while, sorry.
How is it benefit or permissible to buy out the loan? For example, if you're buying a car, APR, they give you upfront whatever the cost of the APR is and just get it in the car.
If I'm not going to give fatwas. I'm just going to give you the general thing, and I'm not going to. First of all, I'm not a mufti. I'm not a scholar. I'm not even a proper worshiper. I'm just like a complete jahil who's just parroting what I've heard other people say. So this is not a fatwa, and this is also not. I can't tell you for specific products, but if you tell somebody, anybody, that if like as a seller, before execution, that means before you've agreed on anything, he says it's $10,000 if you pay it right now, and it's $15,000 if you pay it in 15 months, $1,000 a month. If all the chips are on the table before you execute, before you sign, and you go in full well, and you're paying two different prices, one for immediate and one for installments, that's fine. The problem with riba is that that's not what happens. It's not fixed. They can roll you over, they can increase it, they can change the terms, there's all kinds of things they can do. So this is the main thing. So installments, paying a little bit more for installments is fine as long as the execution hasn't taken place. Yeah.
Just on that point, I do have my own question. In the States, as opposed to Canada, in Canada, they renew your mortgage every 5 years. In the States, if I buy something for 30 years at 1%, to your example, I'm paying that exact installment for the next 30 years where I'm paid off. So my understanding is that's not permissible, but based on the example you just gave,
Yeah.
it would be okay.
Both have riba in it because it's a money-for-money transaction. They're not selling you an asset they own.
But if my paperwork restated the interest as this is a fee of financing, would that be okay?
No, because it's still money for money. They're not allowed to charge you a fee. I can't charge my students a penalty for a late payment. So yeah, money for money is the issue. The issue is there's no asset that they own in between. Yeah, go ahead.
The question I have is, as we're educated, kids are educated in the West, we are taught, like as a business student, we're taught, have your money make money for you, right? So essentially, when the youth get money, traditional ways are to buy a house, investment bond, or something that will secure your money. All of that is riba based. So based on your experience, do you have any like advice for us, or what are we supposed to do as people that grow up here, get our money? How are we supposed to secure our wealth?
Okay, so disclaimer, everything I'm about to say on investment is for your personal benefit, but I'm not telling you this is how to do it. But personally, this is what I do. So I own my property, and if I have any surplus wealth, and I know owning the property is a big thing, but I'm 56 now, so I've been like buying properties ever since I was a kid. My dad helped me with my first one in New York, et cetera, and it got bigger and bigger. The first one was like literally a studio apartment. Who is willing to live in a studio apartment when they're 23? Not too many people. They want to live in like a 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, et cetera. So number one, live on cash, get out of credit. The number one savings you can make is to replace rent with ownership. I know that's a big one, but that's if you can reduce your requirements, you don't have to have the latest car, and you don't have to have you're not going to restaurants every week, et cetera. If you're basically able to put together enough to buy a small place, and by small, I literally mean like, you're a married couple and you've got one kid. I think a 1-bedroom apartment right now is like, it's probably, I don't know the areas very well, but if you've got that squared away, that's one thing, okay? So make your living needs modest and your driving needs modest. But in terms of investment, if you have surplus wealth, I have been putting all of my surplus wealth in gold and silver for the last 20 years, and anybody who's been following the market knows what's happening there. So I do not recommend, and without apology, I do not recommend that you buy a gold fund. Do not buy a gold fund. Do not buy unallocated gold. buy allocated gold and silver. Allocated means it's a bar, it has your name and number on it, and you keep it with yourself. Don't keep it at Brinks or the storage places. Keep it at home, somewhere. Dig a hole under the living room, whatever you have to do. Keep it at home, because right now, if anyone here is following the market, we all know that we're on the precipice of an imminent crash of probably the dollar, and there's just so many tipping points we're hitting right now. The U.S. is $39 trillion in debt. Trillion, trillion with a T. So that's ridiculous. They're fighting these ridiculous wars. So there is extreme, and they've gotten one quantitative easing after the next. They're printing cash. Today I was counting 50s, and I had to peel them apart because they were so new, and the ink had faded on them. They print so many. So I would stay away from institutional wealth. I would stay away from paper wealth, and I would buy and own anything I can touch. So that's my house, and that's my gold bars, and that's my silver bars. Right now, just so you know, silver has gone from like $15 to 120. Now it's down to probably $80 US in just the last few years. So it's outpaced the S&P, the Dow Jones, the houses, everything. That's silver. Gold has also been marching up. It's doubled in the last year. I bought gold for like $2,500 a year ago, and now it's like 5,000. Yeah.
Just want to clarify, you said you do the transaction with somebody before you make the agreement. If someone is not willing to pay, you can make the price of the item different, depending on if you want it upfront or later on.
Yes. Whatever you agree beforehand is fine. As long as everything is known beforehand and the transaction hasn't been executed, that's totally fine. The problem is when the guy has lost a job, he gets desperate, you roll him over for a higher interest rate, this is when the problems really begin.
But on that, you made that decision. Now, you're supposed to pay within a certain amount of time. If that doesn't get met, there's no penalties.
You can't penalize. There are some opinions that talk about charity clauses. You can ask him to make a part of the agreement that he's going to give it away in charity as a deterrent, but you can't take the money. You can't charge a penalty.
When you sign the contract, you can't say that if you don't pay this in the time that we agreed.
No, you can't. Yeah, penalties are out. Financial penalties are out. Yeah. Yep.
So going back to the Islamic mortgages and like the ownership structure, so I was looking into like mental and thought about that. And the main even I think some of them have the funds, like you said, from Muslim investors, and they get like an expected return on that. But beyond that, for starters, the APR, the effective rate was higher than traditional banks, right? Or thing, and the other part is like you said, it's like an active ownership from their end if it is to be halal. But all the risk terms are kind of based towards the buyer, almost like the foreign exchange. So of course these are specific institutions here, maybe they're better in the States, but in order for it to be actually halal, does they have to take on risk as well, like you're mentioning?
It's not that they have to take on risk. It's that the risk is a result of the ownership. So it's not like, oh, if I'm assuming more risk, it becomes halal thereby. No. It becomes halal because it is a shared ownership. So an asset or service is being transacted. It's not just mere money changing hands. So this is the distinguishing element of an Islamic transaction, is that you're actually transacting something real, not something ephemeral, something fleeting, like money for money. And Islamic transactions are necessarily going to be more expensive because it's sometimes harder to go this way. But the Pakistanis will get that joke. But The problem is that Islamic transactions have lower volumes, so they can't scale those costs. There's like one guy handling 10 accounts rather than one person at TD handling 100 accounts. So the salary is still going to get paid. So the unit cost is higher for an Islamic transaction, not because they're, draconian. Yeah.
So going back to the example which you have given, it's like $10,000 and $15,000, and before it is signed, if somebody is asking for that 15,000, and that's okay in terms of Islamic finance. How the Islamic financial institutions actually decide that price? Say for this 10,000, I'm going to charge you 15,000 if you are paying in installments.
So how does what? What's the question?
How they decide, like how they decide instead of for this 10,000, if you pay immediately, it is 10,000, but if you are paying in the installment, for example, with a rent share basis kind of thing, pay 15,000, let's say for 20 years period or 20,000.
They actually use, they benchmark with the conventional pricing model. So if I'm selling, a Pakistani ruafza, and here I'm selling alcohol, and alcohol is going for $1 a liter, and ruafza will always be 50% of the alcohol price. It doesn't make the ruafza automatically alcoholic. It just means you're pricing off it. So they do this benchmarking. But really, banks and all financial institutions are only interested in one of two things, customer service and pricing. So as long as the pricing is competitive with, so what you're going to end up finding, if you talk to Munzil and others, is you're going to pay a premium because it's Islamic. It's like halal food, halal meat, whatever. You're going to pay some kind of a premium. But the pricing, the original pricing, is going to be based on some kind of conventional model out there. But it's usually going to be a little bit more expensive. Although, I have to say one thing. Mizan Bank in Pakistan was cheaper than Prime Bank in Pakistan the last time I checked. And that's because the demand for Mizan Bank is so high that they were able to be actually better competitively on pricing.
So kind of benchmarking they are doing is based on the
It's based on LIBOR.
bank itself, they are going to find out what they are charging and
Yeah,
in a similar time.
because they essentially trying to attract the same customer.
Isn't it they are just converting the fixed interest rate kind of thing into some kind of fees and naming it more Islamic and saying it's the same thing?
No, because they're owning it. If you go to TD Bank and you say, own my house, they'll laugh at you. But Munzil is actually owning your property. And I'm not advertising Munzil, but if they're Sharia compliant, they're owning the property. Guidance is owning the property. Title is another matter, who's named on the title, but the ownership is going to be assumed, the risk for it is going to be assumed by the institution. That no CIBC, BMO, TD is going to do any of that stuff. Yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
Investing in a mutual fund, right? You can invest with RSP, RSP, mutual fund, and they have an option loss and gain.
It's a major headache because I don't know if everyone here knows what a mutual fund is, but it's basically a basket of stocks, basket of equity products. So there's many, many companies, hundreds of companies, thousands, and the mutual fund invests in each one of these different stocks. So the problem is that you have to know where it's being invested. So for instance, Walmart. Walmart sells alcohol. You can't invest in Walmart. So are you going to do that for every single company? So what I would recommend, actually, there are AOFI. I don't have a board here, but it's AAOIFI, Accounting and Auditing Organization for Islamic Financial Institutions. The Fuqaha have told me that's the closest thing that we have to ijma. So you can go with any AOFI compliant fund screen or filter. I don't know, I don't really use these apps, but there are apps out there that can provide you with a filter. I think Zoya, anybody? Yeah, Zoya is the one I've heard of. Are they AOFI compliant? Yeah. So this is the safest and easiest way to go. Or you can go through Ethica and we'll charge you lots of money for doing a Sharia review. I prefer the second choice. Yeah. We're in 65 countries. We have paying professionals, about 15,000 have gone through the programs. We have people who've been through the programs. They've actually launched institutions here. So it's an online program, and you can get the certification. You can do the whole thing online, and then we send you the frame certificate if you pass.
What is Ethica focus on? So you're educational, are you an audit?
Educational. So I was like, black sheep, and then I decided to change my ways. And so I launched Ethica with the purpose of educating people about the harms of riba, because I actually was in investment banking on Wall Street, watching with my own eyes at the traders on the floor when I go down to their floor and check, and seeing the harms of countries being wrecked literally by riba because they were so dependent on these loans. So yeah, what we do is we basically do two things. We do certification. So if you're a professional or an individual or an institution, we certify you. And then we do advisory. Certification is like 99% of our revenue. And then 1% is like advisory work. So this is like helping institutions structure products. So if you guys call me up and say, we need a home financing product for Pickering, then we would get to work on that. We have a team of 20 Deobandi scholars, and they help us with Sharia solutions. So we currently provide an external Sharia board. We also provide structuring. We provide reviews, zakat reviews, all kinds of stuff. So there's that advisory component, and then there's the e-learning side. Yep. Actually, this guy has to ask. Go ahead. Okay, so if you have a credit card that is not interest-based, or you have one that will never charge you interest, or you have a standing order to the bank that you will not be charged interest or receive interest or anything, that's okay. There is a gray area if you have a need. So for instance, I have to rent a car, I have to rent rooms in hotels, I have to travel, etc. So I have a credit card in which I pretty much guarantee it's basically my name on my sister's card. One of three people will pay off the balance immediately. So if you ever fall into, you cannot have a credit card if you even are going to pay a penny of interest. So that's out. If you pay any interest, then you are culpable. So you should not have a credit card. It's just like anything. So stay away from the credit cards completely. But like, I literally have not used a credit card for the last 10 years until this trip, and I'm literally handing my sister the cash before she even needs to have to pay it off. So if you're that kind of individual, you're like, you literally see the fire over here, then yeah, for something that you really need to do and you can't do without it, there is some allowance, but you cannot even slightly slip into the interest. But yeah, there are credit cards that don't charge anything. I think there's some. That's cutting it close. I'm not going to say it's fine, but you haven't incurred interest charges. What I would do instead is just treat it like a debit card. Or like my son, he's got a debit card, and he does everything with it. He purchases everything with it. So I don't have like a debit card situation. But what I would recommend is that you use a debit card, which can do pretty much everything a credit card can. All it does is debits money out of your account. Or you pay your credit card well in advance. So if you know that in the next month you're going to spend $2,000, give them $3,000. That kind of stuff. If you treat it like a debit card, you're safe. But you can't, if you get into a penny of interest, I'm telling you, it's really, I know people who've literally gotten, like, what's the war from Allah? What is the war from Allah? Is the war, okay, is the war from Allah like, you're gonna, something dramatic is gonna happen? No. It's gonna be something that'll happen in your life that could have been preventable. And Allah sent it to you. It could be a problem with your child. It could be a problem in your marriage. It can be, I can guarantee, anybody here, you don't have to give me your examples, but if you have riba in your life, and look around what kind of problems you have. They may be being sent by Allah. Cancer, all kinds of things can happen to you, and that's the war from Allah. So Allah's going to win. You got a war from Allah. It's in the Quran. We all believe in the Quran. Who's going to win that war? So just give yourself a break and just get the riba out of your life ASAP. It's literally you're fighting fire. Yeah.
I'm a realtor for the last 15 years, but we always have customers who always go to banks to get the mortgage, and we help them in many cases. Is that also like bad enough?
Send me the question and I'll get the Mufti to answer it, because he told me that the is my job halal question is very specific for each individual. So it depends on to what extent you're helping them.
Many times we have mortgage people that we have to connect them with the customer.
Yeah, email me the question. You got my email? Yeah, email me the question, because my heart goes out for people who are living here, who are in the finance world. By the way, where's the notebook? Okay, good. So yeah, it's hard. I don't want to answer that, because I don't want to banish you into something haram, but maybe there's some allowance. I don't know. Yep. Depends. Some of them aren't, and I can name some that aren't, and some of them are. And I can name guidance. I trust guidance in the U.S. Guidance residential, guidance financial. They've got I think over $2 billion or something. I don't know much about the Canadian providers, but my Mufti told me that UIF, University Islamic Financial, and guidance were solid.
From your experience, what kind of constitutes a halal mortgage not being
Ownership of an asset. They need to actually own the house, not just put a note on top of the mortgage. Yep.
I'd like to provide you with a piece of information. I work in the compliance of
I can't hear you.
I'm a qualified U.S. and Canadian investment representative. I want to provide you with just free advice. As part of FinTrack, so I was working in the financial industry after September 11, and extreme credit risk was exposed. So there's things we should do to protect ourselves. When you mentioned Mufti Taqi Usman, it's highly controversial. Atif Fatwa, the jihad against Israel. Maulana Iqbal Masood al-Nadwi, who is deeply involved in the Alberta mortgages. He's gone on record for praising jihad, etc., etc. The Giovanni clerics don't have the cleanest record. Is there any plan for us to develop our own homegrown Sharia? I know our Mufti as a case record is a good guy. Why do we rely on people from South Africa? I'm South African, so I know all the financial shenanigans and activities, including your Sharia board members who are training terrorism in Pakistan, which has ties to the ISI, ties to the Pakistani military. I'm just a layman. All I'm saying is that if you set up something financially and journalists or investigators go digging, we're going to look like a bunch of fools.
I actually know about these fatwas you're talking about regarding jihad. So
That's just a tip of the iceberg. There's a lot of financial shenanigans that
yeah, I'm not familiar with it. I've been in the industry. I've been in Islamic finance for 25 years now. I can't say that I've come across a single fatwa from Darul Uloom that I even slightly thought was dubious. So I'm not, you can email me the specifics, but I'm not willing to make a blanket statement that what they're doing is dubious, because
lost millions. We've had zero mortgage companies. We've had bad experiences.
no, zero mortgage. I'm familiar with that example. You're talking about, okay, yeah, okay. You're talking about Financial, I believe, that was reformed as zero mortgages. That's a separate issue. That I don't believe is a Sharia compliance situation, and that was more of a local community issue. But just getting back to the Zionism thing, I mean, Palestine is ours.
It's not about Zionism. It's about
Okay, well, you and I can have a separate conversation later on, but we stand with the Palestinians. There's, for the cameras. So we stand with the Palestinians. According to Geneva Convention, and the Christians, the Muslims, and the Jews abide by international law. And according to international law, Israel is an occupier. And according to Geneva Convention, the Palestinians have a right to resist an occupation. So there's nothing I'm saying or Islamically saying. This is from international law that we are all signatories to. But we've gone to the law of the jungle, and you see what's happening right now. Next question. Yes? So the So finance doesn't change a whole lot because it crossed a border. There's some local nuance which are more familiar to lawyers, but as far as the Sharia goes, we go to the most experienced people. And the most experienced people are where the most transactional volume takes place. And the most transactional volume is taking place in the Eastern Hemisphere right now, in places like Pakistan, South Africa, Dubai. These places, there's just much more experience. So yeah, you do need to have that level of depth. I mean, head of my Sharia board has done 10,000 fatwas, most of them in Islamic finance. He's done them in his sleep. He's forgotten more Islamic finance than I've learned in my life. So this is just the nature of the beast. But yeah.
So as you mentioned, there are funds and like ETFs, stuff like that, which are able to be compliant, right?
Yeah, there are.
So when we're invested in them, so the purification percentages and everything, is that only on the dividends you receive from them, or is it on, profits?
Depends on the product. So again, email me the specifics. I can't make a blanket statement, but yeah, there's purification on different things. So equities, ETFs, is all kinds of situations. So yeah, email me. Yeah, go ahead.
You mentioned like Walmart earlier as a stock. They obviously sell like crumbs, so but as a stock, I think it's clear. So is that like still no?
I don't know. I'm just giving you the example from a recent Sharia review we had because somebody invested in Walmart. But yeah, go ahead. By the way, sorry, I was told that there are ladies also listening in. So if you guys have any questions, you can write them down and send them up. Go ahead. Or if you have a mic, you can just speak into the mic. Yeah, go ahead. It depends on the degree of separation. So you are not, like if somebody comes to your store and buys something, you are not obliged to find out where they work and this and that.
My question is, so it's fine for you to do it, but if you know that the company is making their profits, because they're making, that's their business entity, they're doing it because it's involving interest. Even though your transaction's fine, aren't you now supporting them? Shouldn't you just go back to renting? Because why are you going to be involved in not a profit,
Yeah.
supporting somebody, their whole entity is, they're getting money from.
So there's two levels of answers. One is okay, so there's a lot of things, like for instance, overeating. Overeating, there's like a spectrum in Islam. There's a point at which it actually becomes haram. And there's a point at which it's makruh, and there's a point at which it's permissible. So I can't say that in this spectrum, this is definitely like, you have to know this much about, so how much did they invest? How much visibility do you have on them? Let's say it's a completely ribawi bank that's investing in the thing. Well, strictly speaking, not all of their money is that they're investing from is ribawi. It could be deposits. The principal portion of the deposit is okay. It's the ribawi, and it's the transaction that's not okay. So you have to drill down to pretty specific levels to ascertain whether their investment is acceptable or not, and whether you, as a customer, are allowed to invest into that thereby. So it's case by case.
Well, the customer is fine. I'm giving the premise that the customer is fine.
You're talking about the financier borrowing.
The people that work for that Islamic finance company or the owners, aren't they now getting involved in?
Yeah, again,
When scholars don't get involved in that.
yeah, because right now, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac invest into Islamic financial institutions. And the fuqaha have informed me that their transaction is acceptable because the majority of their funds are acceptable. So as you know, in the Hanafi school, it's like it goes by the majority. So that's the basis, the general basis, the asl. But this is, again, case by case. So I don't want to give any focus. Yeah, actually, here we go. Walaikum assalam.
For the brothers, for example, you guys are asking big money questions. What about the people with low money, just from the bottom, you're starting, you know what I mean? What do you suggest is the best bet for people that have no money, for example, or just, tight ends, really tight positions, barely get the extra,
Well, I talked to somebody like this once, and I said, okay, you've got money situations, you've got money issues. Let's go down through your money issues. His kid was going to the most expensive schools. He was leasing the latest car. He was going to the restaurants. He was doing all these lifestyle things that were not necessary. I mean, when I was in school, I was poor, and I drove a 20-year-old car, a Civic, and I didn't eat at restaurants. I packed my lunch from home. I took the necessary steps. You can imagine if you save $20 a day, that's $7,000 a year. $7,000 a year, you save that, and let's say you bought it silver. And silver, people are talking about silver going to 300, 400, 500. And you waited for 3 or 4 or 5 years, and you saw that 7,000, and the next year you had 14,000, et cetera, and you built that up, and then you had 100,000. And then let's say you went into, buying some land. You bought a parcel of land just outside. You're like, okay, you know what? I'm going to work remotely. I'm going to get this $20,000, $30,000 piece of land, and I'm going to slowly build a place on it. Suddenly you have, this is the kind of thinking you have to have. So I would recommend that people need to take a cold, hard look at their lifestyles. The number one place where you spend money is rent. Number 2 is tax. I mean, those two alone, right off the bat, you can do something about. You should pay your tax, but you should try to minimize it. You should pay your rent, but you should try to minimize it. These are the things that you can actually do.
So you suggested,
Okay, sure.
So you suggested that we should buy basically a piece of silver at $20 a day. That's the best bet. Buy a piece of silver and keep building that up for the year. That's what you do if you were in our shoes.
That's what I did. I mean, for the last 20 years, I've only bought silver. And now I've started buying gold. And alhamdulillah, it's literally quintupled.
And how do you do that?
5 times.
How do you buy that? What's the procedure?
You can. There are sellers here. Like for instance, Sprott does some sales. There are sellers here who sell coins and bars and whatnot, and you can buy them. But you should get them physical. You shouldn't just do the unallocated fund storage, etc. business. Yeah.
So let's say I own a business. Am I allowed to accept credit card payments? Obviously, that restricts your customer.
I've never heard that you can't. I don't see why, because you're only a merchant who's processing something and you're maybe paying a fee, but there's no interest involved. So I don't see, I mean, we get paid by credit, most of our transactions are credit card based, but there's no interest involved. So the issue becomes when you're actually a credit card holder and you end up paying interest. That is That's like, if I had to, like one time, our state tax guys, they charged us interest on a $300 state tax. And I was like beside myself with shock. I was like, what happened here? And then we got an email a couple of months later that said, sorry, we forgot to remind you, you get a refund on that. And I always felt just like a new person because it's so much relief. So it's not actually the problem of the vendor, as far as I know, because we've been taking credit card and the muftis allow it. But the issue is when you actually incur it. But you don't incur it, right? That's more for, that's for instance, like you go to a person who makes money on riba. You know, he's a banker, and you go to his home and to eat. Those issues start coming up. But here, a credit card in and of itself is not the problem. It is the interest it charges in which you are not a party. So that is not, I've never heard that, but. Yeah, go ahead. Okay, 3 minutes to the azan, so okay, guy hasn't asked the question yet.
So let's say I'm using credit cards, but I'm making payments on time, but I'm also collecting points, like travel points or hotel points.
Points are okay, I'm told. Points are okay. I, in fact, asked that question recently for my own situation. Okay, so I promised to send you guys links to free stuff and also answer any questions. I'll also offer you guys a scholarship offer. We've got scholarships. We've given out about 400,000 in scholarships. Yeah.
In your personal opinion, would you think that gold and silver is better as US?
I mean, can you touch that? You can't. So when the markets crash, I actually have a friend. Okay, no talking, guys. I actually have a friend that his father's pension went down 80% in the global financial crisis overnight. And he couldn't do a thing about it. This is his pension. So get your money out of the institutions and out of paper and get it where you can touch and feel it. You know, gold, silver is great. The property you own is great. But really, that's it. So, you know, an ounce of gold right now is $5,000 US. You can have an ounce, just an ounce is, you know. But the thing is, it's hard to travel with, and don't lose it, hide it well, have a security system. People do have gold detectors. The houses here tend to be a little bit thinner. So, you know, put it somewhere. The best gold detectors are like, they can go 19 inches through ground. So keep it somewhere safe. And I wouldn't keep it in a safe. And yes, safety deposit boxes are not safe. There's something called, have you guys heard of the 2010 Dodd-Frank law? Okay, so Barack Obama, right after the global financial crisis ended, 2010, he instituted a new law that allows banks to do bail-ins. Bail-in is a nice word for the opposite of bailout. So bailout takes money from the public through tax. They bail out banks. They said, okay, we'll scrap that, not very popular, now we'll do bail-ins. They're going to take the money from you, the depositor. So when the bank's defaulting, it takes your money legally, according to the Dodd-Frank law in the US. Canada must have something similar. So I would not trust safety deposit boxes. They can seize assets for all kinds of willy-nilly reasons. So keep the money, and a safe is like basically, you know, they'll just pick up the safe and take it and fix it up later on. So just keep it, you know, somewhere safe in your house. Not like, you know, behind the socks or something, but like, you know, something. a little bit more substantial, it requires a little bit of mechanical effort. Yeah. What is it? According to Mufti Taqi, crypto is haram. Yeah, because the subject matter is dubious, so it's an issue. Any other questions before we break for? Yeah, we're doing one right now in the Netherlands. If somebody approaches us, we'll help them out, yes. I mean, we do all the work, so it could be literally a mom and pop type deal, and we'll take care of everything. So, you know, yeah. Yeah, we provide you all the documentation and whatnot. Go ahead. Okay. Jazakumullah khair. Wa alaikum assalam. If you have any questions, you can ask me after.